Welcome to RE Uncut. Our daily shows are supported by Printforce, Sure Agents, Rockend and CoreLogic.
Hello and welcome to the show. In 2010, before the GFC started to hit Australian markets, Daniel Argent was selling one property a week. In 2011 and 12, when the GFC really hit us, his sales dropped to one per month. Sounds familiar, I guess, for those who can remember that time and then went through that patch as well. If you were not in business then, imagine what it would be like still having expenses geared to 4 times your present income. For Daniel, it meant that his cash in the bank dropped from $100,000 to $5,000. He barely made it through. But as he says, he was one of the lucky ones. So many other agents dropped out of the industry altogether. When the GFC ended, Daniel had done a number of things to position himself for success on the other side, and that is exactly what we need to be doing now. In 2013, when the market stabilised, his business went up 250% in 1 year, and it's because of the work that he had done during the downturn. This week, Daniel joins me as we unpack what he did and what you and I can be doing right now to prepare to come out much stronger at the other end than what we went in. Back in just a moment.
Your business card is a vital selling tool and a constant visual reminder of who you are, what you do, and more importantly, how you can be contacted. Introducing our new Velvet business cards, featuring a luxurious premium laminate that has a velvet texture and is soft to the touch. Printed on a resilient 450 GSM card, these cards can be printed with a range of spot gloss and foiling options to give your office that prestigious look.
Well, I've got to say I'm pretty pumped about this week, Daniel Argent being my special guest, and that introduction gave you a great insight as to what Daniel's been through and what he actually brings to the table for us this week. Daniel, welcome to the show. Thanks for giving us your time.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks for having me.
I guess you had to make a lot of decisions back then in those, as you went into those pretty dark days, but you actually came up with a concept called 2120. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so 2120 became my number one strategy to not only survive during the GFC, but actually set myself up to thrive on the other side of it. And it's exactly what both myself and all of our agents are doing coming into this period. So basically, to explain, Kevin, is that during the GFC, and again, it's no different now, everyone's really distracted. There's a lot going on, and it is pulling people away from the core activities of what they need to do. And so what I found is that if I just focused on one thing every day, which was what I could control, then I actually felt great about myself and my business, and I knew that I was setting myself up to succeed. And so every single day, I would make sure non-negotiable for me was doing 20 connections on the phone per day. Now, that might have meant I might have had to make 50 or 60 phone calls to get the 20 connections, but I had to do a minimum of 20 connections every single day. And I had one goal every day, and that was out of those 20 connections to get one meeting. Now, obviously, we're in a slightly different time now with we can still meet people, but there might come a time where we can't. That's fine. I would just switch that to doing, online meetings like you and I are doing now. I might switch it to doing FaceTime appraisals, have people walk me through their property and show me around. But it wouldn't change my strategy. 20 connections every day, book one meeting every day. And I knew if I did that 5 days a week, 4 weeks a month, I could get 20 meetings per month. And out of 20 meetings per month, I would get 2 or 3 listings every single month. And that was just from the work that I was doing. That didn't even take into account call-ins, referrals, etc., which would still bring in another 1 or 2 listings a month. And so I knew that with that strategy, Kevin, I could get 5 new listings every single month. And that's exactly what I needed to do during that GFC period to do well.
Okay, I love the concept of just one activity and then focus on it. But answer this for me if you could. And I imagine there'd be a lot of people watching this now who are saying, where do I get those 20 people from or those 50 people to call? Is it the phone book? Where do they come from, Daniel?
Yeah, look, Kevin, this is why it's so important to build a database. It's so important to build a database always, but particularly if you haven't been building a database during the last couple of years, you really are going to struggle to find people to call. You're exactly right. The first thing I would do would be go to my open house registers. Unless I've got a great database, which hopefully I do, but if I don't have a great database, the first thing I'm going to do is go through my open house registers and start calling every single person and find out, did they buy, if they bought, where did they buy, and start giving them some form of update every day. The other thing I would just add to that, I'll finish answering your question, but I don't want to quickly just go to how do you add value in every one of those 20 connections a day, because that's also critical. You don't try to call people and ask about their cat or something like that. You got to actually call and add value. So, but yeah, look, open house registers. I'd be looking up the phone book, around anything that I've just listed or anything that I've just sold. I'd be calling back every past appraisal I've done for the last, couple of years. So there should be phone numbers there for anyone who's been in the business for long enough. And ultimately, Kevin, they're the people that are going to survive during this period. And it is unfortunate, but I predict we'll probably lose half the agents in the industry during this period. And they will be the ones that just don't have a database and don't have anyone to talk to, because, real estate's not a real great game if you don't have anyone to talk to. I just want to quickly add, it's so important to make sure you're adding profound amount of value to every single person that you connect with every single day. It's not just about giving them a call. And so I would have really important things to talk about. And what can we focus on right now? Positivity. Look, it is not the job of the media to spread positivity, but they certainly don't take that on as an opportunity. We can. And if we just get on the phone and spread positivity and talk about great results, which are happening in the market right now, as an example, we just had one of our agents have a sale that she did. It fell through on Friday. She then resold it over the weekend for $10,000 more than it was under contract for. So, there are still fabulous things happening every single day, and they're the phone calls that we need to be making and adding value to people's day.
Yeah, because there are plenty of other opportunities. And the reason I asked you that question is because, someone starting out new in the industry is going to say, well, how do I make those calls? I mean, even if you're working in an office environment, have a look at the expired listings. I mean, there'd be so many people who probably were on the market 12 months ago who you just don't know until you make the call. Just ask them, what they're doing. There are so many opportunities available.
Absolutely. I mean, Kevin, the people that I really focused on during the GFC was expireds, withdrawns, on the markets, and rentals. As well as just listeds and just solds, and working every single buyer that inquired on a property. I mean, every inquiry that came online or phone call that came in, thanks for inquiring. Let's get you through the property. Where are you moving from? Have you got another property that you need to sell as well? I mean, you just ask a lot more questions and find how you can help people. But absolutely, Kevin, we are going to start to see a lot more listings that expire. We're going to see rental properties that they just can't find new tenants for, want to take the opportunity of actually, selling those properties. So, they would be who I'd be talking to first. Just listeds, on the markets, expired, withdrawns, and rentals.
Yeah, and you made a point too about the number of agents who will be leaving the industry, and unfortunately there will be a lot of casualties, and that leaves a lot of orphans, people who probably were listed with those agents, but are now going to be looking for a new agent. And if you're seen to be the aggressive one, if you're seen to be not so much aggressive but proactive in your marketplace, you may just call someone who says, well, look, such and such down the road were listed with, and now they don't quite know what to do.
Kevin, there's that. There's people that get out of the industry, but there's also the people that are still in the industry that are a bit like a deer in the headlights. I mean, I remember during the GFC, I would just call people and I was positive every day, and I had to manage my mindset, and that's critical. We may or may not have time to talk about that now. You let me know, but I had to manage my mindset every day. I had to be in a good place before I sat down and made those 20 calls, and I would time block it. I would get them all done within sort of 2 or 3 hours, but I would make sure I'd done great things for myself before then, such as gone out, exercised, maybe read for a while, meditated, or any of the number of things that I had to do for my mindset. And I'd always set myself like a little treat on the other side of it as well, which was like, right, get my calls done, and then you can go and get a coffee, or get my calls done, and you can go and do this. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'd always set myself like a little finish line as well. But I would add positivity to every single phone call that I made. And can I say, not just for all the agents that get out of the industry, Kevin, but even for the ones that stay in, they might have no idea how to handle this. And I'm really glad that you and I are talking today, and hopefully, we can share some tips on how to not only survive this, but thrive. But I would call, and I'd be the only positive call that they'd had. And they were like, well, every agent I'm talking to is just doom and gloom. And I'm like, nah, we just sold one on the weekend, got $10,000 more, sold it within 24 hours after the last buyer pulled out. Currently negotiating on 2 sales today. No, it's definitely tough, but it's not impossible to get a deal done. And they were like, wow, you're like a beacon of hope. And that's exactly what my position was. And that's the opportunity that people have now, Kevin, to be a beacon of hope.
Well, the reality is that very few agents are going to be making those calls anyway. Daniel, hey, I'm going to leave it there for today. Tomorrow I want to come back and pick up on a point you just made, because it's one thing to have that ambition that you're going to make those 20 calls, or those 20 connections, I should say, every day. But what happens when you get into some of those down spots? You touched on it, but I want to pick up on more on that tomorrow when we come back, and we're going to ask Daniel, as we dig a little further into this journey, the things that we can be doing right now. Daniel, thanks for your time. Look forward to catching up with you tomorrow.
Thanks, Kevin.
The daily RE Uncut shows are supported by Printforce, Shore Agents, Rock End and CoreLogic. RE Uncut is one of the anchor shows at retplus.com, the home of property.